the uncomfortable truth about Arsenal's squad depth problem. You know what's funny? While everyone's been obsessing over whether we're going to win the league this year, there's a quiet crisis brewing at Arsenal that nobody wants to talk about. And it's not about goals or tactics or even injuries. It's about something far more uncomfortable. We built a brilliant first 11, but we've created a squad full of players who are too good to be backups, yet not quite good enough to be guaranteed starters. And Ben White? He's just become the poster boy for a problem that could define our next 2 years. This isn't about one player wanting out. This is about the impossible mathematics of keeping world-class talent happy when there's only 11 spots on the pitch. Look, on the surface, the Ben White situation seems simple, right? Good player, loss of form. Timber's been brilliant. He's frustrated. Clubs are circling. Standard football stuff. But zoom out for a second. What's really happening here is Arsenal are facing the consequences of their own success in the transfer market. And I mean that genuinely. Think about it. We've assembled a squad where Ben White, a £50 million England international, who was absolutely crucial to our last 2 title challenges, can't get a game. Where we're sitting on Fabio Vieira, Jorginho, Kiwior, and Kedia before he left. These aren't fringe players. These are internationals. These are players who'd walk into most Premier League sides. And they're rotting on our bench. And here's the thing that should terrify every Arsenal fan. We're about to do it again with Mark Guéhi. We're planning to bring in another £50 million center-back in the summer when we already have Gabriel, Saliba, and White. Do the math. That's 4 elite center-backs for 2 positions. Someone's career is getting wasted. This is what I call the depth paradox, and Arsenal are trapped in it. You need quality depth to compete for the Premier League and Champions League. That's not debatable. City have it. Liverpool have it. Real Madrid have it. You need players who can come in when someone's injured or out of form and maintain the level. But here's the paradox. The better your depth, the more unhappy those depth players become. Because genuinely elite footballers don't want to sit on benches. They didn't dedicate their entire lives to the sport to watch Jurrien Timber play every week, no matter how good he is. And Ben White's situation is a perfect example. He's 27 years old. Not 28 like the article incorrectly stated, but 27. This is supposed to be his prime. These are supposed to be the years where he's playing 40-plus games a season, cementing his legacy, maybe even getting back into the England setup. Instead, he's made 9 starts all season. 9. For a player of his quality, that's not squad rotation. That's exile. And what's Arteta supposed to do? Genuinely, what's the answer here? Drop Timber, who's been one of our best players this season. Play it back 3, just accommodate everyone? That's not how modern football works. You can't build your tactical system around keeping everyone happy. You build it around winning. But here's what's keeping me up at night. If we lose Ben White in the summer and Timber gets injured, we're immediately weaker. If we keep Ben White and he's miserable, we got a demotivated player earning huge wages and taking up a squad spot. There's no good answer. Now let's talk about Mark Guéhi, because this is where it gets really interesting. Arsenal are reportedly planning a big move for him in the summer. Liverpool want him too, but we're positioning ourselves for a summer swoop, while Liverpool might try to jump in this January. And I've got to ask, why? What's the actual plan here? Don't get me wrong, Guéhi's a fantastic player. England international, Crystal Palace captain, proven in the Premier League, still only 25. On paper, he's exactly the kind of signing we should be making. But let's be honest about what this means, that if Guéhi arrives, one of our current center backs is finished at Arsenal. It's just mathematics. You can't have Gabriel, Saliba, White, and Guéhi all fighting for 2 spots. Even with injuries and rotation, someone's getting frozen out. And given that White's already frustrated with his game time, you'd have to assume he's the one who'd be pushed out. But here's what worries me. Are we making this signing because we genuinely think Guéhi is better than White? Or are we making it because we're preparing for White to leave anyway? So we need a replacement lined up? Because those are 2 very different strategic decisions, and I'm not sure the club knows which one they're making. And there's another dimension to this that nobody's talking about. Guéhi would have come in and immediately compete with Gabriel and Saliba, 2 of the best center backs in world football, for a starting spot. That's a hell of a lot of pressure. What if he comes in and doesn't adapt quickly? What if he's the one who ends up frustrated after 6 months? We could easily end up in the exact same situation. Just with different names, you've got a feel for Arteta in all this, honestly. That quote after the Brentford game where he's praising White, talking about how happy he is for him as a human being, how positive his attitude's been. You can hear the guilt in those words. He knows. He knows Ben White deserves better. He knows this is unfair on a player who's given everything to this project. But Arteta's also got a job to do. He's trying to win Arsenal's first league title in over 20 years. He's trying to compete in the Champions League. He can't make decisions based on sentiment or fairness. He has to pick the team that gives Arsenal the best chance of winning every single game. And right now, that team has Jurrien Timber at right back. Not because White's declined, not because he's done anything wrong, but because Timber's been exceptional. That's the brutal reality of elite-level football. But here's where Arteta's walking a tightrope. If he mishandles this, if he lets White leave without a proper replacement lined up, or if he pushes him out to accommodate Gay and it backfires, this could define his legacy at Arsenal. Not the title challenges, not the style of play, but whether he could manage a squad full of elite players without destroying morale. Here's what the mainstream coverage isn't telling you. This isn't a Ben White problem. This is a structural problem with how modern football clubs operate at the elite level. Arsenal have done everything right in the transfer market these last few years. We've signed young, hungry, talented players. We've built depth. We've created competition for places. We've avoided the mistake Liverpool made of relying on the same 11 players until they all burned out simultaneously. But we've created a new problem in the process. We've built a squad where someone's always going to be unhappy, where someone's career is always being sacrificed for the greater good of the team. And sooner or later, that becomes unsustainable. Because here's the thing nobody wants to admit. You can't actually have genuine quality depth in a squad of 25 players. The math doesn't work. If you got 2 world-class players for every position, one of them isn't world-class anymore because they're not playing enough. Their value drops, their sharpness drops, their confidence drops. Look at what happened to Vieira. Look at what's happening to Kiwior. These aren't bad players. They're victims of the system. And Ben White's at a crossroads now. Does he stay and fight, hoping Timber gets injured or loses form? Does he accept becoming a rotation option at 27? Or does he force a move to Everton or City or someone else where he can actually play? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If he stays and remains a backup, his career stagnates. If he leaves and Arsenal don't adequately replace him, our title challenge could collapse the moment Timber gets hurt. Everybody loses that what happens next? That's a million-dollar question, isn't it? If Arsenal sell White in the summer and sign Gay, we're essentially betting that Gay will be as good or better, that he'll adapt immediately, and that we won't regret losing someone who knows our system inside out. That's 3 big ifs. If we keep White and sign Gay anyway, we're creating an even bigger squad harmony problem. 4 center backs, 2 positions, 1 very frustrated player becoming 2 very frustrated players. If we keep White and don't sign Gay, we're trusting that Timber stays fit, that White's attitude doesn't deteriorate, and that we can manage this tension for another full season. Also risky, and here's the biggest question of all. If Manchester City come calling for Ben White with serious money, what do we do? Because let's be real, he'd solve a massive problem for them at right back. They need defensive reinforcement. They've got the wages. They can offer him the game time. Do we sell to a direct rival? Do we stand firm even if White wants to go? Do we price him out a move? These are the decisions that will define Arsenal's next 2 years. Look, I'll be straight with you. I love Ben White. I think he's been absolutely brilliant for Arsenal. That first season when everyone said we overpaid, he proved them all wrong. He's been reliable, versatile, committed, professional, everything you want in a player. But if I'm being completely honest, I think he's probably gone in the summer. Not because Arsenal want to sell him, not because he's not good enough, but because the situation's become untenable. He deserves to play every week, and Arsenal can't guarantee him that. It's that simple. If we're smart, we'll cash in while his value's still high, bring in Gay as a long-term replacement, and use that money to strengthen elsewhere. Maybe a striker, maybe a midfielder, maybe another option at left back. But here's my worry. I don't think we fully thought through what losing Ben White actually means. Not just tactically, but culturally. He's been part of this project from the beginning of the Arteta rebuild. He's one of the leaders in that dressing room. He's someone who understands what this manager wants. And we're about to lose him because we couldn't figure out how to keep two excellent right backs happy at the same time. That's modern football for you. Sometimes there are no good answers. Sometimes you just have to choose which problem you'd rather have. And right now, Arsenal are choosing the problem of replacing Ben White over the problem of keeping him happy on the bench. That I just hope we don't regret it. Look, I need to talk to you about something that's been gnawing at me. And it's not just about Mark Gahey. It's not just about whether we're signing him in January or waiting until summer. It's not even really about Liverpool having a clear run at him this month while we sit on our hands. No, what this is actually about is something far more concerning. Something that's in a pattern at Arsenal for years now. And if you've been paying attention, really paying attention, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This is about Arsenal's relationship with decisive action, with boldness, with backing our manager when the moment demands it. And right now, as Liverpool march toward another league title and we're scrapping for top four, that moment is screaming at us, here's what nobody's saying out loud. Arsenal are doing again. We're watching our rivals strengthen while we plan for tomorrow. Liverpool, the actual defending champions, the team that's currently 10 points clear at the top, are actively trying to sign Mark Gahey this month. Manchester City, despite their struggles, are putting £35 million on the table right now, and us, according to The Athletic, our interest is more related to the summer than the current window. Summer, as if the Premier League title race waits for summer, as if Champions League qualification gets decided in July. But here's the deeper issue that connects everything. This isn't just about one defender. This is about a club that has consistently chosen caution over ambition at critical moments. Think about it. Martin Zubimendi, a player we desperately needed, rejected Liverpool, eventually joined us, but only after how much deliberation? How much back and forth? Meanwhile, Liverpool moved on, found solutions, and won the bloody league that, let's be brutally honest about where we are. Liverpool aren't just ahead of us in the table. They're ahead of us in mentality. They see a problem. They fix it immediately. Injuries to their center backs? They're moving for Gahey in January. No hesitation. No, let's assess in summer. Just action. And here's what kills me. We know we need defensive reinforcements. William Saliba and Gabriel are world-class. Yes, but football isn't played with two defenders. We need depth. We need options. We need to compete on four fronts without our entire season collapsing if one of them picks up an injury. Gahey is entering the final 6 months of his contract. He's 25 years old. He's English, homegrown, Premier League proven, and available for £40 million, which in today's market is basically pocket change for a starting quality center back. This is a no-brainer January signing, but instead, we're reportedly planning for summer. Why? So we can compete with Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich for him when he's a free agent? So we can enter a bidding war for wages rather than securing him now when we have a clear advantage. This is Arsenal football in 2026. Overthinking the simple decisions. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but we've got Gabriel and Saliba. Why do we need Gahey? He won't even start. And that right, there's exactly the small club mentality that's holding us back. Do you think Liverpool worried about game time when they were building their squad? Do you think City concerned themselves with hurting feelings when they stockpile quality? No, they create competition. They build depth. They make sure that when injuries happen, the drop-off isn't catastrophic. Look at our recent history. Every single season under Arteta, we had periods where we've been stretched thin, where we've had to play kids or completely change our system because we lack proper cover. And every single time, it's cost us points. Points that have been the difference between silverware and brave effort lads. Gahey wouldn't be competing with Gabriel and Saliba. He'd be complementing them. He'd be the player who allows us to rotate intelligently, who steps in seamlessly when needed, who pushes everyone to maintain their standards because they know a quality alternative is right there. But more than that, if we're being real, truly real, signing Gahey sends a message to our rivals, to our players, to everyone watching. It says, we're not satisfied with top four. We're not satisfied with being in the conversation. We want to win. The Martin Zubimendi situation should have taught us something. We eventually got him, yes, but think about the journey. Think about how long it took. Think about the alternatives Liverpool found while we were negotiating, rethinking, assessing. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We got Zubimendi because he eventually chose us. Not because we were decisive. Not because we moved fastest. But because Arsenal, as an institution, as a name, still carries weight. But how long can we rely on our reputation alone? How many times can we afford to be the club that plans for summer while our rivals take players off the market in January? Liverpool are confident they can beat City to Gahey. You know why? Because Gahey apparently prefers Liverpool. Because they're winners. Because they offer something we currently don't. The realistic prospect of winning the biggest trophies right now were Arsenal. We should be that club. We have the history, the stadium, the manager, the fan base. But we're letting Liverpool, who were in the wilderness a decade ago, position themselves as a more attractive destination for top players. That should sting. That should hurt. That should make everyone at the club furious enough to prove otherwise. Here's what the articles won't tell you, what the journalists can't quite articulate. This is about self-belief at an institutional level. Arsenal, as a club, as a decision-making entity, don't quite believe we're ready to go toe-to-toe with the absolute elite. Not yet. We're close, we're building, we're progressing. But there's always this hesitation, this little voice that says, let's wait, let's be sure, let's not overcommit. And I get it. I understand the financial prudence. I appreciate that we're not going to do a Chelsea or a United and just throw money at problems. But there's a difference between being smart and being timid. Smart is recognizing that £40 million for Gahey in January, when you're competing for Champions League places and still mathematically in a title race, is better value than a free transfer bidding war in summer, where you're competing with European giants on wages alone. Timid is convincing yourself that summer's fine, that we'll manage, that Saliba and Gabriel will stay fit, that we don't need to worry about Liverpool strengthening while we stand still. Oh, here are the questions Arsenal need to answer, and quickly. Are we genuinely trying to win the Premier League, or are we trying to be in the mix? Because those are two very different ambitions that require two very different approaches. What happens when we have a defensive injury crisis in February or March? What's the plan then? Youth players and prayers. Are we confident that Gahey will still want to join Arsenal in summer after watching Liverpool win another title and possibly compete in a Champions League final? After Real Madrid come calling with their prestige and wages? And perhaps most importantly, what message does this send to Mikel Arteta? We're asking him to compete with Pep, Arne Slot, and the best managers in the world, but we're not giving him the tools when they're available. We're asking him to be patient, to wait, to trust the process. At some point, patience becomes an excuse for inaction. Look, I love Arsenal. I want to believe in the project, in Arteta, in EDU's successor, in everything we're building. And there's a lot to be optimistic about. We have improved. We are closer than we've been in years. But this Gahey situation crystallizes everything that's still holding us back. We have a chance, right now this January, to strengthen significantly, to show ambition, to make a statement. Instead, we're reportedly planning for summer, banking on circumstances being favorable 6 months from now. That's not a plan. That's a hope. Liverpool aren't hoping. City, even in their struggles, aren't hoping. They're making moves, taking calculated risks, backing their managers with resources when it matters. And until Arsenal develop that same ruthlessness, that same commitment to winning now rather than building for some perfect future moment that never quite arrives, where they keep finishing second, third, fourth, close but not quite close enough. The question isn't whether Arsenal can compete at the highest level. The question is whether we truly believe we belong there. Because right now, our actions suggest we're still not entirely